All right, well, welcome everybody to the Monday, August 28th Park and Recreation meeting here at the Rosemary Recreation Complex. I know it's been a little bit since we've all got together. So I know there are certain things we want to go over tonight. Some things we definitely want to hit on, other things we can just kind of move down the line. But looking at our agenda for start off, we have the open forum with public comment. I do not see anybody in the room for public comment. Do we have anybody in the chat room or anything for Zoom?
We do.
Fantastic. Next on our agenda, we had the meeting guests that Ryan Madden and Rick Verrier, our new director and assistant director of NHS athletics, were to be here tonight, but they cannot make it. So we will just skip to next item, being the chair's updates. As I mentioned, it's been a month, so we're kind of just going to go as we usually do, that if something pops up on the agenda, we'll just bring it up at that time. There's nothing really pressing that I need to go over right now. So now we will jump into the fourth item on the agenda, being the director's report, and hand it over to Stacy and Anna.
Thank you, Chris. So I emailed out the director's report like at 5 o'clock tonight, so I apologize for that because I realized it wasn't in the report. Updated numbers. So obviously court badges will be ongoing a little bit, but the pool are the end of season passes. And I didn't go too much into pool things or camp things because Hannah and Chris are working on their end of season reports where they'll dive into the numbers more specifically and get you a lot more information, and we'll get that out to you long before our meetings, just time to digest it. So I told them hopefully by the October meetings that we would have those. And they're working on this now since yesterday was the last day of the pool. Sad face. Moving forward. Basically overall the pool was great. The camps in our first inaugural season did really well. All the normal things, I think, other than nagging people for physicals, parents would have no idea that we turned into camp. It was exactly the way we wanted it. We wanted to keep it normal and smooth, and it was a very successful summer. Field and facilities, the grass fields were open on Monday, September 4th. Typically we open on the 1st. I spoke with Eddie. With all the rain and athletics, some of the just having a few extra days made a big difference to Ed and his team. He is short-staffed slightly, so it was a big deal for him to just extend a couple days. The turf fields are open, the tracks are open, so there are options for people if they need them. And we will open the grass fields on Monday. That being said, obviously the high school is on our fields. They're all over town, and that is an agreement we have, you know, this third week in August, I believe. So they're working on those, and now they're getting the rest of the fields ready for the youth groups.
Before you go into capital projects, can I quickly interject? In regards to the pool, I think we can count on maybe just one hand, or maybe a few fingers on another hand of how many days we were actually closed. I'll take Mother Nature out of it, of days that it rains or it floods. And I think we had 1 or 2 days where a part was broken and it was fixed relatively very quickly.
We had no parts broken. It was flood that shut us down.
Okay.
3 days.
So
3, 4, 5. Sorry, 5 days.
we never had to shut down because didn't have enough staff.
No, Mother
Didn't have
Nature
enough
had
of this.
given
Mother
us.
Nature was the only thing that ever closed us down this season.
And most days, other than the flood, we opened to the best of our ability and then watched the weather to a point where we're like, oh,
Right.
this is not enough of that.
Which you gotta look at other municipalities and other pools that I don't think they could cancel us for something like that.
No.
I mean, everyone's gonna deal with Mother Nature, but unless you're in a closed location, but I mean, to have a record like that, I think it's, you know, commendable to the staff to be here, to have a staff where other places couldn't even get staff. So I think that's a tremendous accomplishment.
Yes.
I was talking to Katie King this morning and we talked about, this year we had to call the ambulance 1 time, and it was the first time since I started,
Oh, wow.
which is a big deal.
How was the,
With a facility our size, you would think we would need more of that, but it was just the one little guy who nailed his noggin and was back at the pool 3 days later with a giant bandage and his nanny yelling at him not to go in the water. So
good to have you
that
come
was
back.
successful.
Will we also send out like a move form or a survey at the end of the season to kind of say, hey, what did you like? What What do you think we can improve on, certain things like that?
We haven't done that yet because everything has been COVID or COVID adjacent. This is our first year that we're not, so we will send that out, especially for our swim lessons, because they were less populated than we would like, and so we want more information, feedback on this.
Okay. Perfect.
Chair, can I make a comment?
Of course you can.
I don't know if we will get to see Devin, that would be great, if he could come
Yes.
and talk with us at some point, but if we could hear from him and Devin, when that report is done, that would be great. I know it's not that simple, so if it's not that easy, you know, sadly has to be here at our meetings anyway. But really extend our thanks to, from the commission, not just to the staff, because they have usually left, but to Devin, and our thanks to Hannah, I'll extend them right now, because it sounded like it was a great season. First season of no COVID, right, since you've been here.
I was gonna say, it was my first real season, I think it was very successful, we had our typical boss.
Yeah.
We managed them, we worked through them, and overall, we have an excellent staff and some.
Well,
really,
thank you
like, our
from-
supervisors this year and our like pool supervisors and assistant supervisors were just top notch.
Yeah, well, thank you for the commission. We
Yes,
appreciate
thank you.
that.
Yes.
I've
And
heard great things, in the community, like really, really great things about the pool this year, so kudos.
And really no complaints on Facebook, you're not
No.
picking up, so I mean, the absence of those complaints is bad. So, thank you.
As far as projects go, so the Cloud Fields, Hannah took some pictures on Friday about the construction, it is ongoing, it is moving forward. Slower than we would like, but Mother Nature is playing a role in that as well. But we're definitely on a faster track now. We'll continue to send updates and pictures and timelines along the way, especially in Hannah's Friday updates.
When are the, I know the meetings are on Friday, the construction meetings, I assume they're at McLeod.
So up to date, they've been on Teams. And
Okay,
they've been bi-weekly because there's been a lack of progress, so it didn't make sense to pull everything together.
just,
Now that there's more progress, we will be pulling people in, to the site.
okay,
But the plan is to go bi-weekly until we get further along, and then it would be.
okay, perfect.
Claxton Field, so we had an internal meeting with Weston Sampson, town management, finance, everything. We are working with DEP. Conservation and Weston Sampson. I'll try and give you the summary of what we're working on. Basically, the geo barrier that we need to put down, we now have to extend further. And that is fine, except there's like a bunch of trees that we either have to take down to put the barrier down, or move the barrier around the trees very carefully. So we're working with DEP to find out what we need to do, and conservation. To figure out how many trees, do we need to take down trees, can we move around them?
And where is that, Susie?
That is out in the wetlands, so there's about
Okay, way back,
10 trees that you would see.
yeah.
None of them are mature, that doesn't mean that they're not important, but they're not mature trees. So actually today, I met with them, I didn't go in the field, because I had another meeting. Just, but they went out, to tag all the trees, but a lot of them, like, they needed to bring machetes and equipment to get to the trees, because of the overgrowth where we're talking.
Oh, pretty far back, but pretty, okay.
Yep. So Clay was out there as well, Weston Sampson and Eddie and a few of his team members were up there with everybody.
I do have to say in regards to Claxton, the sod or turf or grass that they put down where Rivoli was for the setup. Looks like a new carpet down, looks fantastic.
That's where the rain is coming handy.
It's,
Right, right, the grass is growing.
Yes, grass is growing over there, so that is a good thing. For the Tafazio, as you know, we went out to bid, we didn't get any, bids back, so we went to one of our internal engineer companies. They sent over some specs late last week. We're gonna have an internal meeting to make sure the specs are what we need to move forward with the design.
A quick question on that, is it confirmed what pieces are in?
So this is the design page, so we haven't even got to the pieces yet, this is more like. We need 2 renderings, there'll be 6 meetings, there'll be 3 public meetings, that is part of the bid specs. That we need to go through to make sure that we have that and like CONs, and do we need to pull, we will have to pull permits because of the conservation land. So that's what we're going through, believe next week or the week after. Vacation times are coming into play right now.
So why do you think we didn't get those?
I don't know. I have reached out, I haven't heard back, I don't know if it was the timing, I don't know if it was.
Because of conservation land surrounding it?
I had talked to a bunch of our vendors beforehand, and that didn't seem like a big deal, I honestly think it just hit at the wrong time. I don't know, I'll be meeting with 2 of our vendors within the next 3 weeks, so I can just touch base with them and find out. Tennis courts, we were scheduled to have a meeting this coming week, but our town engineer is on vacation, so we're gonna push it so that he can attend. That will be with the working group and town engineer, and this will be the first sort of round of depictions of what they think we can do.
And what's the plan for when they would be completed?
The tennis courts,
Yeah, that'll be good.
so it would be,
Next year is when they would start, if you'd have to get funding at May's County.
Right, so-
yeah, so they're
So
They're
spring.
on track to give us a budget number deliverable for construction. So that we can vote on it at town meeting, therefore it would be after July. And then the active recreation working group, we just got the procurement documents approved. So now we can go out to bid for the feasibility study for that. Right.
Do we know of any vendors that we've worked with before that might be interested in a project like that?
So we are looking at whether or not we go internal again,
Okay,
or if we go out to bid for this particular project, because it's a much broader scope and it involves a lot of different, it's not like we want this here, which a lot of our internal people can do, versus here are all the options we're thinking of, what's the best. My guess is we'll end up going out. But that will, follow us here.
perfect.
So is that group still meeting, or is that their purpose is done? They
Their
think this
purpose
year
is finished, they've disbanded, when we get to the point of having a working group for the feasibility study, we'll reach out like we did for the phasio and for the tennis courts. See if anybody is interested. We'll go from there.
Okay. Any questions in regards to the director's report committee information? Yes, of course.
Are you in the active process of hiring a staff member on this?
So I just completed the CON, which is a certificate of necessity
Yeah.
for that position.
Yeah.
The unspoken rules, park and rec departments don't post jobs in the summer. It's too crazy, it's too
Right.
busy. We had a lot of coverage internally for seasonal staff for the office, so there wasn't a push. I just signed the CON, so we'll post that position.
Okay, so in the fall. it will
So
start
we'll
again.
post it, it'll be posted probably on a rolling basis, and we'll start interviewing. We won't interview for this.
Okay. No other questions with regards to the director's reports. Let us now go back into the package. Good. All right, Exchange Club, well, we're going on to discussion items. There's a request to find the vendor that does the plaques to put on something like that. Have we had a chance to follow up with the Exchange Club of who that vendor might be?
We have not, so I have some irons in the fire, but I have not received anything back. Mostly it's, I can get a lot of back offices, so.
The exchange club would like to find Stacy for that.
That's,
Yes.
that's perfectly
And so
fine.
we reached out,
Right, yeah, right.
yeah, so I have reached out to a few vendors of getting the out of offices waiting until probably after Labor Day to really put the full court press on this week. But it is in process.
Got it, okay. Commission policies, no real big change. I mean, I know we probably review them every year, but we probably do them towards the end of the year, looking into our next year.
So at our last team meeting, our internal team meeting, I looked at the department calendar, the commission calendar, and I started, Ann and I are working on moving some policies around to figure out like, okay, we want to review this time, we want to review that time, so we're working on updating that. There are no current policies in update right now that we have. We have a summer staff member that's done a lot of research on financial aid policies and underwriting departments. And they've gathered a lot of that information, so that's currently in a Google Doc that we're sort of sorting through and seeing what other people do.
Okay.
To Chair.
Of course.
Shocking, I know. Are we planning to look at the policies about how we handle this room when people want to use this room?
Yes.
Because we had it, right, we had a request, right, is that 2 months ago, I'm just escaping now, but we don't have, our policy is to not actually rent out this room.
Correct, we want to use it more for the community, kind of like our programming in the community. Boy Scout troops, things like that. I think we've never looked at an outside source.
And do you think we need to review?
I think, yeah, I think we should, because at least we could have a policy to decide, determine if it is a feasible thing to have at a location like this.
So we'll pull that one as well and take a look and see where we wanna have those discussion items for the next meeting.
Okay, just maybe for Jim's benefit, 'cause maybe you were at the meeting, Jim, or not, but I don't remember, but the policy we originally came up with back in, I don't know, 2018 or 16 or something, was that we would not rent this room out, but it would be used for town purposes or nonprofits, sports groups, whatever, and then we had a request for someone who wanted to rent it for some event.
I remember there was some party or.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
so we need to revisit that policy and see if it still makes sense.
I have to run, guys, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna see.
If everything turns out okay, all right?
I'll have to do it.
Oh,
You don't have to,
Oh, yeah, good, thank you, yeah. You good, take care of you, okay?
good luck, Dana.
thank you, I'll let you know.
No problem.
It's a ring bell.
One thing, I don't know if this falls in commission policies. More of the goals of the select board, I know that they had sent something out and we had seen that. I cannot remember what some of those goals were, but I think there were certain things that have to involve us.
There's a few, and there was a few that I didn't. Not that I didn't see coming, but I didn't know were part of their goals, so there was a few that do affect us that I was like, oh, okay, so I
Yeah.
think we need to review those in detail, and I'll put together a report on the goals that affect us directly.
Right, start working with them, because if they're gonna be out there, start pitching in.
Yes.
Nice to have, to know what they're pitching.
And we do, I don't remember what I saw it.
I saw it, yeah.
One piece that I was like, oh,
It came out like 2 weeks ago, I want to say,
Yes.
that, so I just kind of remember that. All right, letter C here, the trail steward meetings.
So I followed up with their assistant director 2 weeks ago. And I don't know if there's been any change in like when that has happened. I followed up again today,
Okay,
but then did like a Teams message to try and see if they were in the process, but I know that within our email, we have a couple of people that are interested.
Okay.
So I definitely don't want to leave them hanging, which I think Cindy and I had a conversation last week about, but want to make sure that those people are being heard, that they are interested. I think a lot of them are repeats from prior to COVID, so, but there's a good mix of people that are new to.
okay, that's good. All right, keep us posted on that. Capital projects, Stacy went through that in regards to the director's report. Any questions about capital projects? Okay, CPC. Jim, are we sworn in yet?
I don't know if Stacy's gonna go with paperwork.
Oh, I think actually, what, I think I have to sign it too.
Oh, whatever happened,
Hey, as long as you got sworn in.
she swore me in and said like, you made some notes, she'll worry about it later.
So you're in.
so
Sworn
Derek.
in, sworn in, or sworn in, sworn in.
Paper, Cindy signed it, we need you.
Got
it. And we'll send it to be official.
They didn't seem all concerned,
So
so.
I was just getting the paperwork done. for you, don't
Perfect.
worry. You're in.
Yes, yes. Definitely. Now, the only other update we have on CPC, just kind of bring this back full circle in regards to Claxton. We decided to withdraw the CPC application from Claxton just because of the amount of the membrane thing that's gonna go over that the town is going to be financially responsible for the project.
We are withdrawing it from the fall request. The town is looking to see if they can
Budgeted.
budget it
Mhm.
within the town. If if necessary, we can go back in the spring
Sure.
for actual town meeting for that cycle.
Mhm.
But for the moment, we did pull
Which I'm fine with that, because I mean, if the town can take care of the first part, the plans that we have for Claxton going forward. I think it's a great idea that we can get the membrane done, and then all the other accoutrements that we did want to do with Claxton.
So
We could go CPC wise.
So how does that all get submitted?
How does the, like, a CPC application, like,
Pickleball and,
so
park.
what we do is, so, again, this is all hypothetical, say that
Sure.
we do have the active recreation group, and we decide that Claxton is going to be the home to the skate park, and we're gonna put the pickleball courts there. What we would do is we would write a proposal to CPC, has to be in before December 4th, I want to say, where you pretty much give a write-up of, this is the reason why we're asking for this much money, and here's the means behind it, and this is why we think we'll benefit from it, and here's the final price tag. What CPC will then do is debate if it falls under the 4 buckets that CPC is responsible for. And if they do agree with it, they will then put it on the warrant article and have meetings and get everything like that. So, but it's one of the things that you have to have it in before the date. If not, you miss that cycle and have to wait a whole calendar year.
Okay,
So,
good to know.
And if the town, when is the town gonna make its decision? Is there a chance we would need to resubmit it before the December 4th, 2023 date, or are we totally off that date?
We're not off that date, there, we would have that option, Dave Davison is on vacation this week. But as we work with the and that will finalize what our route that we're gonna take with the trees and the membrane. And so, once that's finalized, then we can make a better decision. But my guess is ideally within the month.
Okay.
perfect,
Yeah.
okay. And there should be a CPC meeting coming out, in September.
Like again, I got.
Okay, but-
A while back. I haven't sworn in yet, so I didn't think.
Is Joe Barnes now the chair?
You're,
Joe Barnes, okay.
I'll let you know.
We'll reach out to Joe Barnes, make sure everyone's on the same page, make sure you're receiving those communications, so. Playgrounds and facilities,
So we've done a lot of work, over the summer with, updating, we put in the new fibers at LA Broadmeadow, we put in swing mats, which are the rubber mats that go underneath the swings that help stop the movement of the fibers. The rain and the flooding did not help fibers, they put them in and they flooded away, so we're working on bringing them back. But there's other things like we received that this month, all enough chains to replace all the chains and any sweet seats for the swings. A big deal, that's I think about 72 chains, give or take. Tom Forte is working on that, we just installed a funnel ball back at Broadmeadow, they have not had one in quite a while. We put mats around the basketball hoop poles at Broadmeadow. I think the next step is Newman. Tom Forte, we're working with him to reinstall the basketball hoop that got taken down during one of the snow and ice storms we had. And then also repaint Newman's basketball court lines and square lines. So working on that, work with Newman to get a price to replace the turf with Port in Place, as well as working on the new preschool. We did have one of our vendors go out to all the school playgrounds with any updates and getting some mocks and some prices for updates as well. So that's a slow and steady progress through those with the schools.
Jim,
Oh, sorry.
no,
Can I ask quick? I guess the facilities, is there a plan to do something with the water fountains, convert them to? Cause I know Mills wasn't on. Are you gonna, whatever they call them,
Yeah. So the bubbles. Thank you.
there's your boss next.
So we are, so in COVID, we turned off all the.
Right.
Because of the safety. We haven't turned them all back on. The town is we are slowly looking at replacing all of them with water fillers. Outdoor water fillers, so we're gonna go piece by piece. We are having a meeting this month to talk about which ones we need to turn back on in the meantime. one of them is screens, one of them is mills.
I get asked all the time.
Absolutely, so we are moving forward, this is the first year we've ever been asked about them since 2020. So it hasn't been a priority, but now we're gonna start to turn some of them back on while we're looking to replace them.
Good to know. Thanks.
3 quick things in regards to facilities. How's the portal place doing at Greens?
Great.
Fantastic. No issues, no. Love it. Okay. The bathrooms, I haven't heard of one issue of the porta potties being at locations. So that means they're working and it's a good thing. I know there was or am I
Or they're
here?
not there. They're not there.
Are they not there?
No, they're all there.
Okay,
There was what, 2 weeks ago, there was a tipped over one, there may or may not be a video of the director and the assistant director writing, he said, porta potty. A good one. Cause it was afternoon on Friday, so we went over and tipped it back up,
there you go.
it's a good sign.
And that's all there?
It's all good. It seems to be used when it's.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I would imagine, you know.
We're still looking into seeing if we can fix the Vasio, so we can reopen it. The biggest concern is the vandalism,
Yeah,
because every
it's-
time we open it, it gets
Is
vandalized.
it worth it to, I mean, I would think we
It's
should
not.
tell the community we're not going to reopen.
It's not, but I did promise the town manager that we would look into what the cost would be upfront, and then what, if it happened again, and what the cost would be.
Okay.
So we're just gonna look at budget numbers, we're not doing anything, we're gonna keep the porta potties.
Mhm.
We're now entering the fall season where we replace the porta potties that we pulled out for the summer.
Right,
So those will go back. I will probably ask you for a priority list of where I know that there is some neighbors at Perry Park that absolutely do not want the porta potty back there.
So the porta potty is there.
It never got removed. We're working with the company. Has it been removed? now? Should have been removed last Friday, but prior to that, it was supposed to be removed in June.
Right.
We did request
But
that.
now you'd be putting it back in the fall,
If we
decide.
decide to put it back, it would be good, it would go back, yes. It will go back to Avery and Walker Gordon. And I have to work, it looks like Cricket already has one, but I would assume that's the school, so I'll work with
Yes.
Brian Madden on where he has put them, and then we will fill in the gaps where we need to.
okay.
So would it make a
Okay.
difference, I'm sorry,
Okay,
would it make a difference if the commission took a position on the Vasio and said, we prefer portables and not to pursue opening that building? I don't know if the other commissions feel that way, but would it make a difference if we took that position? Would it help you?
It
or
would
not?
as far as the residents go,
Yeah,
I think. While porta potties are not ideal,
no,
they
nobody
are-
likes- no.
nobody likes them, however, they are, we do have a automatic contract, so that if something happens. If they get tipped over, they need an extra cleaning, we can have them out. The reason why Hannah and I fixed the porta potty was Friday, and they said that they wouldn't be able to get out to Monday or Tuesday, and we had an event over the weekend, and we were like, we'll just move it back up. So,
I don't know if that's something that we would wanna consider taking that position, or if we wanna just wait and see how it goes up. I'm just feeling like that building is such a problem, the vandalism has been so hard.
if we were, I mean, to take a straw poll, I love the use of the porta potties. I think it's a waste of money to reopen the ones, because it's probably gonna last a day or two. That's gonna get vandalized, one's gotta get shut down, then we're gonna have to go back to porta potties and bring them in, and it's just gonna be the.
So it just, the Vasio gets vandalized?
Pretty much, I mean,
Bathrooms?
it's because you gotta think it's the volume, like you take a place like Mills. It's probably not getting vandalized because it's not just getting that much use out of it. But when you
But
have-
and also, like,
Exactly, when you have. Schools, other events coming, and it's a free for all, it's a shame that that's up there.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's,
they just do, just got.
could be doors off,
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like, why, you know, they ain't gonna do that in the porta potties. I hope not. So,
if they do, we get to call the contractor and make them out and replace it.
I don't know if we would wanna consider that, we don't have to do it tonight, it's not on the agenda, and I don't know if it makes sense, but it's just a thought, if it helps the staff, it helps the director and assistant director.
it's not a waste to show the cost to the town manager, because you've been asked to do it, but then we could say. great, there's the cost, but we just don't think it's not worth doing it.
Well, we also now have to go back out to bid for the cleaning contract for the park bathrooms. So if we bid and approve a contract, we have to pay the cleaning company to clean bathrooms even if we close them.
Cool.
So
So we would have to pay for Claxton and Mills.
Claxton and Mills, we do need for the company.
And Memorial, or is that taken, is that
Memorial's
different?
building maintenance.
Building maintenance, okay.
It's a thought.
It's, yeah, it's definitely,
Exactly.
that's something we kick down the road, but I think we need to.
I mean, nobody loves it, but. The
I don't think
vandalism
also-
to me seems much worse.
And we have significant vandalism at Memorial as well. But building maintenance is on it and can fix most of it in-house, because it's a building
Right,
that's occupied on a regular basis versus the phasio, which is, we have to go out for a contractor for that to build it.
We have quarters of things.
Phasio.
mhm.
So,
Is there a way to reuse that? Or not?
yeah, I think that's.
Storage and that, or I.
Because it's all
Plumbing in here.
but still.
Yeah, there's a way to pass it and.
Maybe the bathrooms at the stadium.
Up to base, yeah.
If we
Certainly
were,
look into it and
Yeah.
if we run the numbers, the town manager, you guys vote as a priority that we're gonna keep work wise and close that as bathrooms, then we can start moving into the next steps for reuse.
right.
Because if we ever redo the pavilion and wanna put in plumbed bathrooms, because of the space and the new rules, we're gonna have to extend the number of bathrooms on both sides.
Got
And add all gender bathrooms and all kinds of things, that don't exist now, like the new laws around bathrooms for a space like that are gonna change the size of that.
Good call.
And maybe it doesn't even need to vote as much as we need, you know, because the commission would recommend
Mhm.
we stay
On
on
the
board.
vehicles.
I mean, we've just been this much time with Brad. And spending them.
On board bodies.
All the fun things.
But it's worth it, in my opinion. Last thing I have, I know there's an email that you had sent out and something that's kind of out of our control, but we have to at least acknowledge it. With the rains that we had come down to lower Broad Meadow. I do feel that the people that live by that area where they got flooded, but I mean, it's nature. I mean, what can we do as a field or commission? I mean, we can't put up a huge retaining wall. I mean, that's something more town engineers and building maintenance or whatever has to look into that. Yes, I feel bad that they flooded, but it's kind of out of our hands and we'll support the town as much as we can, but I mean, we can't give an answer. That's way above our pay grade, I could say it that way.
So the request from the DPW director was, do you want to be involved in the meetings we're gonna have moving forward with these groups, because we will have them, and I will certainly be a part of them, but it's, you know, technically it's our park and rec land, so. I did let them know that like you're supportive of DPW and whatever
Sure.
you do, and you wanna be held, you know, in the circle, but you don't necessarily have to be part of the meetings. I can,
Perfect.
you know, represent.
We don't have the expertise.
Exactly, and neither do I, but I'm happy to be there for the internal meetings.
Got it. Okay. Anything else in regards to any of the discussion items that we have? Stacy does.
So I sent an email today about, cradles
Cradles
to
to crayons, yep.
about, them wanting to put basically some drop boxes that look like where you donate clothes for the Red Cross. It's a fairly big box. They are interested in putting them at a couple of our sites. The two they named were DeFazio and Mills. I don't necessarily agree with Mills, because I don't think it's really a hot spot and it will create more chaos than necessary, especially for the neighbors. But I do believe wholeheartedly in that organization, and I don't disagree that Phasio is a good option. There may be another option. But I said I would bring it to you and see if the commission supports it, and then me and the organization discuss locations. I think frankly, Rosemary would be a great place for it, especially in the summer. It's just a matter of location.
No, I agree. I think it's a valuable resource that's out there. I just think some of the locations, yeah, maybe need to be revisited before, what would be the best to do that.
And I can work with them and talk about different locations and do a site walk and then bring it to you for a vote, a final vote before they end up here, but I did wanna, it came in at sometime today and I forwarded it on to you guys, so we don't have to make it a decision today, but if you want me to investigate further with them, I'm happy to do that and come up with maybe one or two locations that make sense. Either on our property or town or school, we can loop them in as well.
It's a great organization.
Yeah.
I think as long as there is some, understanding that it isn't necessarily forever, we may want some kind of an end date on this. I'm not sure why, and I also, when you sit the place, it doesn't take up much space, not much parking, and we can't give up even one space of parking, and so I would not want to give up.
No, I looked at
Parking.
the overhead today on the Phasio, and there's a couple of nooks we can tuck it into that won't affect parking. And that won't take up any like playable space. But they are also movable, which is a good thing, so if we find like, oh, this isn't working, we can slide it somewhere else or move to a different location.
And are they responsible for moving, or would?
100%
Are they
It's all
responsible for all.
I'm not sure that they use this place either.
I don't either, I don't know, even like maybe the reservoir would be better, although you can't take a parking spot over there either, so. That's what it comes down to, is like, they need to have access with the truck to
Mhm.
be able to get in and out. Not just to empty it, but to move it, so I think it's a longer discussion with them, but I did wanna bring it to your attention and, you know, sort of feel you out and see how you felt about it in general, is it worth pursuing, or is it hard?
Is it, possible to have it at yard, have one at yard to us? I mean, we have. Donation.
I don't see why not.
That goes up there, right there, for, who's it, Red Cross? I think
Yes,
that's Right,
right,
Red
yes.
Cross, Blue Cross, I don't know if that's possible.
I think that's an excellent, I think they were looking at like, where do people gather?
Yeah,
Like kids, and so inevitably it moves towards where are playgrounds, where are bigger
it would
fields.
be great for sports groups to be able to have a, little fundraiser or something where they donate.
Oh, I think it's something definitely worth pursuing, and I don't want to speak for the whole commission, but I think we can all agree, start having preliminary conversations with them. Agree, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say, both of my kids' schools, they have a drive twice a year, it goes in advance. They have, I mean, it is, we are inundated, like, of like, and then you can volunteer, and then you can do it's like at least, like, there's a lot of opportunities to support, so I fully support it, we are actively involved in doing it, I just think agreeing to a permanent, even like a physical location feels like a lot. There's a lot of other organizations that do similar things that are just as like valid and have just as good of a cause. I think there's also a lot of dumping that happens around these boxes. So if you're going to the junction, there's a box there and it's just trash.
Yep.
And it's like, overflowing and there's stuff sort of jammed in there. So there's a lot of maintenance that's required around these. I think having it in a location like Deposio where you're not necessarily able to monitor it a lot, I think just could create a lot more mess. And upkeep than you want, and it's not visible to everyone, right? It's people that come through and you actually don't want people stopping who aren't there for field use because the parking is so cheap.
Yeah.
Like the last one is like a lot of people circling through. that are out there.
Right.
So I just think there's like things to keep in mind if we're really supportive of this. I think the RTS is great because there's constant monitoring. It's closed after a certain time. People are there to kind of handle different parts of their and it's disposal of certain things.
Yeah.
So that just might be better.
It's a good point.
Even not rolling today.
Got it. All right, anything else in regards to discussion items? All right, special event approvals. Derek, I'll let you go through this again. So the sheet that we have in front of us on paper are 2 additional plus the ones that we have.
Yeah, so the ones that were in the packet, that's the updated version for it.
Got it, okay. So looking at it, a lot of them were ones that were just already approved of Because,
So this is like a FYI.
sure,
Thank you.
Uh,
this.
Derek separated them, so that we know what's happening, but you don't have to vote on it. And then there's the two that I would like you to vote on, and there's one other conversation piece I'd like to have.
Okay. All right, so let's go to the first one that we have here. The event, the Scout Camporee Parking, Troop 13, Jim Murphy on 9:30. Claxton 1 and 2 parking lot.
So we talked, Chris and I talked about this, and basically they're requesting use of the Claxton parking lot overnight. And it moves to you to sort of agree to vote on this, but we can approve them being allowed to park, we cannot guarantee, and nor do we get anything, sort of just for them, because we have field space on Saturday, we have games happening, we have things happening, so they can use it, but they're not guaranteed exclusive use.
I agree, I mean, they're there, yeah, we don't ever guarantee parking. We don't
We
do that
won't-
to Basio, we don't do it at any other locations.
Because they're parking overnight, but we cannot guarantee it.
And they want to be overnight on Saturday night or Friday?
Saturday and
Saturday
Sunday.
night. Mhm.
Wait, are they actually sleeping in the, so it wouldn't you need to barricade that? You want cars coming and like running people over? Am I-
They're in, they're in the forest.
Oh, they just want it.
They only want the car.
Yeah.
Wow, jumping up on 3 now. Jeez.
They're gonna sleep in the forest in some tents, they just want their cars not to be towed, basically.
And that's on camera too.
That's good.
Nailed it, that's good stuff, yeah.
Give you a twin scale that we can go out and join.
There goes the monster truck rally, okay. So yeah, so the kids will not be sleeping in the park.
Here, right here.
I did encourage them to focus their parking efforts over by the ponds, so that they're not using the Claxton parking lot as much, most of the parking will be there. Again, we will inform NPD so that they're aware of it, and they will ticket or tow,
Sure,
but we can't guarantee spots.
Tell them not to sleep in the park.
And
Yeah,
we
yeah.
would be requested they don't sleep in parking lot.
just one minor.
Safety first.
All right, I'll make the motion on here is that I say we approve the Scout Camporee parking event for Troop 13. We will guarantee the space of where they want to camp, where they want to pitch their tents, well, we will guarantee that spot, but we will not guarantee the parking. All right, where it is, because it is other athletic fields or groups are gonna be using the fields during the daytime, but at night. We will alert the police that they are there, and will be ticketed as the director had mentioned. Okay. I made the motion, can I get a second? Seconds. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. And with giggles.
He's crying. I'm just putting it on. Guy laughing.
Oh, this one,
The second one I just put in there, it's technically one that I can approve, but it's hilarious because it's June. And former Commissioner Fred Lalonde would like to request Mitchell for an end of the school year picnic. Like, exactly,
wow,
that,
2024.
yeah, okay.
and she even got the rain date into it, just in case,
Would you want to go 25? Well, she's at it.
yes. Do for the network.
Anyways,
That is one, yes, that is one that you can, put a little post-it note up on your computer about that one. So, right.
The one thing I did want to discuss with you folks, and it's more of a FYI, there are some user groups at the fields, some sports groups that are concerned about the number of special events that we are allowing at certain fields because it does mess with their permits. The biggest one, I think, is Newman, because most of the school fields are not a big deal for us to shut down Saturday or Sunday because they don't get used as often. However, Newman is a big space. We use it frequently for a lot of different sports. I just want to put it out there. We have approved a couple of events already. But I did get some feedback that I just wanted to bring to your attention that like. If we do multiple weekends in a row of a special event on Saturday at Newman, it does affect permitting.
Okay,
So far in the fall, it has not. There's only one. I think last spring, it did affect them slightly more. I feel pretty strongly that we should have special events. But I just wanted to let you know that that is a concern from some.
Can you tell us what sports are? Yeah, I'm sorry. Mr. Chair.
it's a free form.
It
Is
is
it soccer, is it baseball?
mostly, it's mostly soccer in the fall. It is more a mix of little league, baseball and soccer in the spring.
And what, I'm trying to recall what some of the special events have been.
Oh, it'd be the Spring Fest for Newman, I would say.
That,
The Spring Fest, there was a movie night, there's trunk or treat coming up, which we already approved.
Wasn't there a relay race or
The
something?
Relay for Life,
Relay for
all
Life.
of them in,
at
the
Newman?
mayor, that would be during the day.
that'll be during the day.
Okay.
So, like I said, I'm only bringing this to your attention so that as more come in, we're aware of it as a concern. So far, I don't find it concerning. Yeah, but
Okay,
I
well,
did want to
thank you for bringing it to our
bring
attention.
it to your attention.
Yeah. We want to disadvantage a school that has a larger property that can actually allow for use that goes beyond.
Exactly, like if
So
they
it's sort of-
use their whole property, it's not that big
Not
of a
big,
deal, it doesn't get used as much as
Doesn't
Newman.
shut down.
Exactly.
Same thing as Mitchell, same thing as Broadmeadows, you know, like every school's a little different, but Newman is the more premier fields that we have, so
It's our biggest multi-purpose
just wanted to bring it to your.
besides.
Yeah.
All right,
Good thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
definitely. Going through action items, policy approvals, we have no new policy to approve.
We have nothing brought up, like I said, we are grabbing information about financial aid, Hannah and I have been talking about fields, she has a thing.
One thing that was, we were talking about too was formalizing the.
Oh, yes. So we did have
Oh,
some
yes.
pushback on some pool policies this summer, so, and it was brought to our attention that we have nothing online. As our formal pool policy, other than what is required by the mass.gov rules and regulations. So now that it's the off season, Hannah and I have some time to talk about what our policies are, we're gonna collaborate, bring them together, bring them to you to review. And then make a more formalized policy with the caveat as the director has, you know, the ability to make a decision in the moment for safety's sake, kind of thing. I did speak to town management and town council about policies that were brought to my attention. We did figure them out for this one summer, but I think a more formalized policy, rules and regs, things like that, we don't have them posted, we don't have posted any of our rules and regs really about camp either. And I think unfortunately, we are in a more litigious sort of age of the world, and I think we need to have some basics formalized, so when somebody says, when I say, I'm sorry, you can't do that, and they say, well, point to where you can't do that. For most people, when I explain the safety concerns, they back off, but not everybody, and so I think having a more formalized policy with some room to govern in the moment is important, both on the pool and the camp. This specifically came up at the pool, but I think having some rules and regs for the camp as well is.
I agree.
So we will work on those as well.
Okay. Next up. The big one. Fee approvals that we have nothing to approve yet. Because I'd like to start having a discussion of, we had talked about this before. I feel that we need to raise the fees of our user groups. Because we talked about tonight, the porta potties. We're on the hook for those right now. Who uses a lot of these porta potties? The user groups. We've talked about the traffic concerns that we haven't faced yet. There was one user group or a few user groups that reached out and helped and got a detail. That was very nice, but this is something that we might need to look at. Further increasing the fees. We all know the cost of goods are going up, so what grass seed cost back when we did the fees, it's not the same cost grass seed is right now. that.
Grassy is tripled in the last year.
So, I mean, these are things that, I mean, and I will say this, I'm not just because it's Eddie Olson, but our fields look fantastic compared to a lot of the other fields that are out there. And it's because he does the maintenance, he has the crew to do this. That if he doesn't have the money to do this, our fields are not gonna be open. We're gonna have less and less user groups on the fields just because we can't wrap around the problem with the issues that's there. That with the user fees, I mean, we did tell the user groups at the beginning of this year at the field summit that we will be raising the fees. I know a lot of the spring groups, I know we're kind of getting out of summer, going into fall, they're gonna be opening up their spring registration relatively soon. We've got to let them know what the fee increase is gonna be so they can adjust and they can adjust their pricing. Now, I think we should look at it as, there are two ways. Is it a certain groups get a certain dollar figure? Or every group gets a certain dollar figure increase, or is it gonna be a certain percentage across the board? Of how it's gonna be, so. I would like to see at the next meeting, all the fees that we charge for every user group that we have spring, summer, and fall. Winter, we really don't have any groups that we have to deal with, but it's just, I'd like to see like. Where they are now, when's the last time they actually had an increase? And what we should do for the next increase? Because it needs to happen, I mean, it's nice that we have the benefit that we have, but everything is going up, we need the user groups to take a bite out of it too. Stacy.
So the department will work on gathering that information as well as information of surrounding towns, but what I'd also like to gather for you is what the town/schools charge for indoor use.
That'd be
Because
great.
I think the gyms get used and there are fees charged, and so I'd like to keep in mind what they're charging. For their usage and ours, it's not apples to apples, but it's also good to know, what they're charging, so. If we need to lean on either the schools or the town.
I think what we should also do, just out of courtesy, is our spring user groups. Can we reach out to them this week to find out when they will be opening up their spring registration?
Signups.
So at least we can work backwards. So say, I'm just making this up, say it's November 1st is when they're gonna open up their spring registration. We've gotta have something in place by beginning of October to kind of go with them to say, hey, it's the price, this is how it's gonna be, of what it is. So if we can reach out to all of our spring user groups and say, when are you gonna open up spring registration? And if they're kind of
And a reminder that the fees are gonna.
exactly, and say, hey, listen, you know, if you're gonna open them up on the 1st, you might open them up on 29 or something like that, say. Can you wait one day till they, you know, just so everyone's on the same page, so we're not kind of rushing for one and what we want to do diligence of others.
Yeah, we can send
So-
that email tomorrow.
Questions?
No, I think it's great.
Even she's, oh my gosh. Now this is just not for the spring sports, it's all the sports. It's spring, summer, and fall. It's not just spring, we're raising, we're raising across the board. So-
We just wanna make sure that we get ahead of the.
Exactly. So. All right, next up is the minutes of the meeting. From.
July 24th.
Hey,
Ooh, and we have a forum.
gosh. All right, looking at the minutes of July 24th. Any questions about? The meeting or the notes? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 24th, 2023.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconds it. All right, any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of the Park and Rec Commission meeting of July 24th, 2023, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Back at the top, let's see, issues not reasonably anticipated. I really don't, oh, okay.
Yeah, I got one, it's mine, but it was called to my attention that the Little League field at Mills. College kids have been playing baseball there and threatening, you know, people had to call the police.
What were they doing?
They would, I mean, think about it,
Oh, they're
a college kid hitting baseball. That landed, you know, the net and everything is for like Little League. And So they called to my attention, I wondered if, you know, anything we could do like sign, because the police came
Mhm.
and they had to have a discussion instead of like, because there was no rule, no sign or anything, so.
We can work on signage and I'll bring it to our park ranger's attention so he can make some more frequent stops over there to keep an eye on it.
But I think even if there's just
Look
a
it up.
sign that says you can't do this, then when the police go, they don't have to have a discussion. Maybe the people just not do it in the future.
Without saying the name, would you be able to identify it's a
Oh,
local college, don't say the name, but would you say it's a local college that is in this area?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It was just called to my, you know, and I guess it's happened on more than one occasion, you
Okay.
know. With people playing tennis and pickleball, just like.
Yeah, I
threatening.
mean, you have little league kids that can hit out of there, you get a college kid, you get it straight, you know?
That's the whole point.
Different from the police, I mean, would they normally?
They may reach out to Blue
Okay.
and Blue could have handled it and not brought it to my attention or whatever.
Yeah, I think they just called the police came and they handled it, but
Right.
if it was a sign or something, then the police could have said,
No big
I
kids.
mean, not
you're in violation.
all of our fields,
Yeah, it's just,
field use requires permit, technically.
yeah, something like that.
There could
So-
be, it's college student.
Could be doing a pickup game.
Yep.
So I don't,
Which we do
not
see.
sure what.
Yeah, but they wouldn't do it on a little league field. I mean,
They shouldn't do it, I mean, it's silly for them to do that, in Puerto Rico, but.
They wanna hit it a whole time.
Could
They're
do
not
it,
gonna go to Memorial, they're gonna go to Middle, but they can hit a whole
Yeah,
time.
because they get kicked off by the adult softball leagues.
Which
over
is right there, they may be
there.
college kids who are home looking for a place to pick up
Mhm.
baseball.
Yeah, I don't.
Right, I mean, unless someone came back to they were in uniforms and they were at
Yeah.
equipment, right, that's a different story, but I.
Yes, it's short, but like, I couldn't necessarily pick somebody out for a non-safety issue, if they're hitting balls into the street, yes.
Yes,
Right,
okay.
I mean, you know.
I'll talk to Lou and see if he's heard about it.
Speaking of, how's he doing?
Good.
Good, getting ready for the fall season?
Is it ready as you can?
Perfect then. Topics for future meetings, what we can do is we can just kind of fill those in to Stacy before our meetings. Our next meeting dates, we have Monday, September 11th. I know we talked about that. It is September 11th, but we're still gonna keep it. The 25th of Yom Kippur,
We're gonna have to cancel or reschedule.
yep, and then
Ditto.
on the 9th. Okay. What we will do on the September 11th meeting is we will find alternate dates for the meeting on the 25th and the 9th. That works for everybody. Team will be back by then.
You ever gonna send out a doodle poll ahead of that?
That
I mean, you sometimes go to the Tuesday, right?
Right, yeah.
It's a Monday holiday, you really need to have it, but I don't know, does Tuesday work?
No,
Did
I'm
the
out
26th work, it's still before, right, so would the 26th not work?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Not for that meeting.
That's
but
the way-
I'll send out a- Plus
Doodle.
Tuesdays are terrible for me, but I will send out a doodle poll.
I agree.
For some options for those 2 weeks,
Okay.
and then we can go from there.
And October 9th, it is a holiday.
So Indigenous Peoples' Day.
It's lots of
Formally
people have that,
recognized.
yeah, but the town.
The 10th, that is a town, that is a federal holiday. Yom Kippur is not, but Indigenous people is a federal holiday.
Okay. Anything else? Just say, very excited for the kids to go back to school, starting
It
Wednesday.
is the most wonderful time of
It
year.
is
My favorite.
The schools
So-
closed.
here, raining down my eye, but just, I think, I don't think some people are gonna be used to the traffic of the way it's gonna be on Wednesday, the kids going to school, and just, I
Is
mean.
Webster Street gonna be open?
I don't Hope so.
Every time we drive down that road, I'm like, are you kidding?
It's all
Yeah,
one construction,
Make Wednesday, okay.
so good luck to the kiddos back to school.
Yep.
All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Okay.
Second it is. All those in favor say aye.
I.
Aye. We are
Thank you.
adjourned.